Hi there, welcome to the CMO Corner. My name is Thabani Khumalo and I'm your host. For the month of June, we're doing something special. We've seen the challenges that marketing is facing. We know the high unemployment rate for the youth, and we're doing something special. And I want to introduce to you the Brave Future CMO Code. I'm going to be joined by Mr. Musa Kalenga, who is the Group Chief Executive Officer for Brave Group and the founder of Forge. And we're going to be talking about what the future of marketing looks like, how we lead that and not only adapt, and how we make sure that we empower the current youth and the future CMOs. So join us over the next 4 weeks as we give you breathtaking content that will challenge marketing today.
Firstly, this is about Youth Month, right? And we believe we're youths.
I do. I'm not sure about you.
I believe I'm a youth.
Welcome to the CMO Corner. This is a special edition for the month of June with my good friend here, Musa Kalenga, who is the Group Chief Executive Officer of Brave Group and the founder of Forge.
Hey, you got it right.
First time, right? I was like, yo, I must get it right.
Yeah. Love
You do a lot of things, so I'm never sure with you, eh?
No, I'm indeed the group CEO, and I'm indeed the founder of Forge. So thank you.
Fabulous. Yeah. So, bro, we spoke last year.
Yeah.
And you were teasing Forge.
Yes.
And I said to you, we want to know, there's a waiting list, we want to do this thing.
Yes.
So now you've officially launched it.
Yes.
And something's happening on the other side, and we'll get to it. But I want to talk to you about possibly the partnership that you and I have embarked on.
Right.
Why it's important for you, and what to expect from it.
100%. So, firstly, this is about Youth Month, right? And we believe we're youths.
I do. I'm not sure about you.
I believe I'm a youth. Although, according to our government, we're no longer youths. But the partnership is important for many reasons. The first being, the focus of this podcast is about CMOs, right? And in Youth Month, we're trying to figure out how we create bridges between the young people, millions of young people in South Africa that should be coming into economic active spaces, and marketing is one of those spaces that they could come into.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's a really interesting marriage of what we are trying to do with Forge as a platform. We're launching a opportunity for young people to think about using technology to become economically active marketeers.
Sure.
So for me, it makes perfect sense. But more than that, I really enjoy the ability to collaborate around something that's meaningful. I really do believe that we can move the needle for young people in South Africa. I believe, and I've always believed, that technology can help us solve interesting problems in our continent.
Yeah.
And so for me, it feels right.
Yeah.
It feels like the right kind of thing to be doing and to start and grow organically over time.
Love that. So the platform, and you've kind of alluded to it, huge focus on CMOs, how we better that, how we better the industry.
Yeah.
But also how we take the next generation up.
Absolutely.
So pretty aligned, and I love it. So I believe we've got people next door. Take me through your thinking about why they're there, what they're working on, because a huge part of this content will be focusing on that today.
Absolutely. So you're right. CMOs, like many other senior executives, often get to their positions and there's a disproportionate responsibility on them to try and solve the problems of the world by bringing up the next generation. There's very few structured ways in which that happens unless you're committed to doing it, right? And this, as an individual, you've embarked on a personal mission to say, I will bring up the next generation of marketers. What we have decided to do as a business certainly is to say, what role do we play in solving that problem, so that we can lighten the load on the on CMOs that have to do that, but also make sure that we put our best foot forward in showing up. So next door we've got a group of young people. They fortunately do not have any experience. They fortunately have not worked anywhere. But all of them have got some kind of base qualification. And we took them into a process where we were trying to test a little bit of a theory based on everything we've learned about AI, based on everything that we've come to understand about AI. We've been very privileged to build Forge over the last 18 months, so we've got some knowledge and IP. And so the assumption was, can we take young people and fill them with this new knowledge, fill them with this new IP, and get them very quickly to a point where they're productive in the marketing context. Now, what does that mean? It means that they're able to understand the context of briefs, of challenges clients want to solve, and they're able to use AI and the tools that we've been able to develop to actually bring about solutions, right? And that's been great to see. because we often find ourselves in our industry where you've got, what I call the full cups. Guys with all the experience, they've done everything, worked on all the brands, but the way they think about the production of work and thinking and creative is very, very, very insular, and it's been frozen. And so when you try and pour new things into that cup, it's like pouring water into a cement-filled cup. So it just overflows. So the theory around the empty cups is this is a completely brand new slate. They believe in AI, they understand the tech, and all of that stuff I don't have to force them to think about. You just have to help them out to problem solve. So next door, they're busy trying to tackle a couple of briefs. It's been wonderful to see over the last 10 days how they've blossomed.
Nice. You know what's fun? Do they know what the tech crew means?
They do.
Okay, cool.
They've actually embraced it, right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they've embraced it. We've kept them away from the rest of the agency. Yeah. We've incubated them and said, you guys are going to be the ones that help us to understand how to get this thing ground up done. So they love it, actually.
Lovely. And now, we're talking AI. Why do you think it's such a topical discussion right now in marketing?
Well, you know how it is. So marketing as a discipline, ironically, has been the least transformed discipline. If you think about the way we do things, the way we create and manage the way we work. We've been the least transformed out of many, many disciplines. The second thing is that all the data points to the fact that it's also, as a result of that, going to be the most disrupted by AI.
Got you.
Right? So industries like lawyers, the legal fraternity are up there in terms of disruption from AI. Marketing is up there in terms of disruption from AI. So where you have a lot of repetitive processes that take up human time, you are susceptible to being disrupted by AI. So for us, it's not if and why, it's when it's going to happen. The challenge is it's almost like looking at death in the face and trying to figure out how you're going to navigate this thing. And we just simply made the decision to say, well, either we're going to figure it out or it's going to happen to us. So marketing being disrupted by AI is happening already. I would not sit here and say it's coming or it's already happening. There's just various levels of mental preparedness that people have, and therefore various levels of commitment to trying to do something different. And we've certainly tried to be ahead of that curve.
Got you.
Yeah.
So now the tech crew is at an advantage.
Yes.
They're empty cups.
Absolutely.
But what you realize is the higher you go at a CMO level, to your point, there's cement. Right? My question now is, you've got chief marketing officers, you've got chief digital officers, you've got now the chief information officer. All of these almost feel like they are created into one world with the introduction of AI.
Yes.
What do you see happening within that level across those different roles?
So you know what? The one thing that we should appreciate around diversity of experience, of knowledge, of domain, is that it allows you to look at problems and solve them with a unified brain.
Okay.
Now, when you think about a CMO, a CFO, think about a CDO, CTO, all of those roles, there's two things they have in common. The first is that they are mandated to solve the most complex problems for their organizations. They have to do so with their initial silo hat, and they have to do so with an organizational-wide hat. Now, what AI does is that the silo hat can almost be automated. But the organizational-wide view is what they have to show up with as human beings. So it means that me, as Mr. CMO in my organization, I might be the best. I understand advertising and marketing. There's a whole lot of MarTech that allows me to, basically automate my function. When I'm around the table with my other executives, I'm now not thinking about marketing automation. I'm thinking about the role of marketing and the data thereof in the world of technology, in the world of, so that role is very important for them to keep in mind. Now, the traditional argument has been, I'm so caught up in my day-to-day of managing my agencies, of being able to do the campaigns, of being able, so when am I going to get the time to now lift my head up and think about the rest of the organization? From
that level as well, what important skills do you think are critical with an AI-driven future?
So what has been, super interesting, so there's two things. There's research that I'm following from MIT that really is just studying the impact of ChatGPT on creativity. From the beginning, the hypothesis was, does ChatGPT and AI make humans creative or not? So I've been following that quite interestingly and keenly seeing the outcome of the studies. And the two things that are kind of surfacing now is what AI does is it allows you to lift the floor, right? So lifting the floor means that if we're all sitting here and we're all lawyers, and because of the way we studied, the school we went to, we're at different levels of competency. AI can bring us all to the same level. So those that are least competent will become more competent.
Got you.
What AI does not do, doesn't solve for the ceiling. So those that are truly geniuses don't get more genius because of AI.
Yes.
So you're solving two very different problems.
Okay.
The first problem is that if in the world of marketing, all of us are marketers and we write copy, but my copy wins awards and yours doesn't, AI will help yours get closer to winning awards. Because I'm a genius at copywriting, AI won't really do much to impact me. So I have to solve for the reality of making sure that everybody in my organization is equipped enough so that everyone gets marginally better. Okay. But then I have to identify the true geniuses and the true stars and create a whole different solve for them, which I think in our world is about inspirational spaces. It's exposing them to the world. It's finding ways that you can stimulate their minds so that they can give you a better solution. So I think that's the big opportunity, regardless of whether you're a CMO or you're a junior intern. The task is to make sure that you get closer to how you think about AI either lifting your floor or how you create an environment for you to be able to lift the ceiling based on the inputs and the space you're in.
Now, the report you're currently following, is it available for public consumption?
It is, yeah,
Cool.
Absolutely.
I want you to share it so we can tag it in the description.
100%, yeah.
And I think more people can actually equip themselves. Now, the other thing which is critical, and we've kind of set the base of our discussion.
Yeah.
But what I want to also go into, there's two sides to it in marketing. There's a demand side, there's a supply side, right? And AI has disrupted both sides, I would argue.
Correct.
Now, over time, you've seen changes in marketing.
Yeah.
I think you're well-traveled, your career, you've spent different roles and at a senior level as well. So you've seen the evolution happen over time. And what is your view over the past decade, if you were to call it that, of this shift between the demand side and the supply side of marketing with the introduction of AI?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I also find it funny that you say I'm so well-traveled. I'm such a young man. But I'll tell you a funny joke. Right? I was at a conference and I made a comment.
Yeah. I
said to them, at this particular organization, I said, I wrote the first version of your social media policy, right? And I don't know what I was talking about. It was a throwaway comment. A week later, I'm having a meeting with this particular organization and the technology team. A young man gets on the call and says, it's you. And I was like, yeah, it's me. And he's like, I didn't believe you when you said you wrote the first version of our social media policy. But I went to find it. And indeed.
You did write
it. So, and I wrote it at a time where social media was becoming the thing. Right? And in my own words, I was like, people, thou shalt not access social media during 9 to 5 in this place. Those were my words. I'm so embarrassed. But what it represents is that at the advent of any new technology, there's very much a point of view that you restrain it, right? There's very much a point of view that you don't necessarily try and explore it to the nth degree. So the things I've seen in terms of a shift is that COVID changed the complete demand around creative services. No longer was the environment such that clients would have an appetite for things that took long. No longer was it that you could, have the benefit of multiple reverts. A lot of that shifted because of COVID. One, because people were no longer outside consuming out of home. They were all online, according to data. And because they're all online, there was an expectation now to be buying digital-based content, digital-based ads, digital-based. So all of it shifted.
Gotcha.
And after that shift, it didn't go back, right? It's gone back slowly, but it will never go back to the same way it used to be.
Okay.
So you've completely changed the demand curve.
Yeah.
And in that change of demand curve, you've got agencies that forced themselves at some point to respond to it. Now they're trying to push back and go back to where it was.
Yes, true.
But the model has changed.
True.
And so the dexterity that now you need to kind of make peace with the model has changed, that the buyers are no longer buying they used to buy and have to show up differently has been really difficult, really, really difficult. Back to the point around the innovation or lack thereof within marketing and advertising spaces, it's been hard to respond to that change from demand with clients. So the era of massive retainers, this is a discussion I have all the time, that era's gone.
Is it?
Yeah, that era's gone. I think I have never seen a retainer get more valuable over time. I remember that era was like the network BBDO times, where you could have an account for like 99 years, right? But now I've seen like you reach year 3 on your own retainer, and it generally gets the frustration, the dynamics. It just gets worse after year 3, and then then you go through a pitch and you find another.
Exactly.
Right. So I don't see it doing this. So which reinforces to me that the pressure that you apply from a retainer point of view is actually not good for relationships, because it puts you in a situation where you're forced to interact with these people. And from a client point of view, which is the supply side, from an agency point of view, which is the supply side, we haven't made significant changes to respond to that demand reality.
Yeah.
So AI is one of the ways that we should be doing that,
Got
and
you.
it helps us to be able to solve for that.
Now, from an agency perspective, are there platforms currently that are setting them up for success?
There are. I suppose the opportunity we saw, as they say, the white space, is that the current technologies that are there, by and large, if I'm to look at the entire ecosystem, a lot of them are workflow and automation tools, right?
Got
That
you.
means that I understand how work moves from one stage to another. I've been able to figure out a way to automate that.
Got you.
Where we saw that there was an opportunity is in that automation, there wasn't necessarily intelligence baked into the process.
Okay.
So you are going from one step to another, very much like a conveyor belt, and you've got roles identified so you can do it well. All of that, yes, it's in place, but there was a decided lack of intelligence in being able to make the thing more valuable as it moves along on the conveyor belt. So we took this idea around how do we understand the workflow and how do we make sure that we're clear on how work is made and managed, and then how do we integrate the best in class AI to add intelligence to that workflow. So what I see currently out there is tools that can help you automate stuff that has to do with low thinking, low cognitive tasks, but the high cognitive tasks is very difficult to automate. The idea around agents kind of helps people to get there, but certainly not in a full end-to-end tool that we've seen and we've been watching quite a lot.
And have you found the adoption, at least if I think about it, I've got a sense and a feeling that marketers at client side haven't necessarily adopted AI, and the term is used loosely, at least that's what I believe, AI to its fullest capacity right now. Do you see the same from an agency lens on utilization of this new world of technology? I want to call it technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Shem, on the client side, in most cases, they're probably worse than agencies because of governance, because of compliance, because of this is the standard operating procedure we've had here. So unless you have a really maverick leader, your incentive is not to try and adopt anything new, right?
Okay.
So unless there's a maverick context where you're being pushed internally, there's really no incentive for you to go and try the latest and greatest AI thing.
Got
the
you.
incentive is tick the box. Did you do a brief? Yes, I did. Was it a PDF? Yes, it was. Did it go to the agency? Yes, it was. Did you send it via email? Yes, I did.
True.
Done my job, right? So there's no incentive to go and say, well, how could you have done that differently? You know what I mean? And on the agency side, we over time get panel beaten into that thinking. I can see that sometimes there's appetite from agencies to think differently, but over time the client says, no, just comply. It's, doing it differently then means I have to then go and do something differently internally, and doing something different internally puts me out there. So that's the first kind of interpersonal dynamic. The second thing is once you try something, according to innovation, 80% of what you're going to try is going to fail. So to have the wherewithal to keep journeying and keep trying when 80% of the time you're going to fail is not naturally baked into agency teams. It's not naturally baked into people to continue doing something that is producing a negative output. But once again, if you're in a maverick context where you've got leaders that say, we'll take the 20% when we get it, and we adopted the fact that 80% will be our reality, but when we get to 20%, it'll be worth doing, and then focus on those activities. So I think both dynamics apply on client and agency side, but because one is paying, it affects the other worse.
Now, tell me, in the context where the world is changing,
Yes.
AI has come on board.
Yeah.
If you sit now and you're saying you're recruiting for a marketer in today's age, or possibly maybe in the next 10 years, certain qualities that marketers have currently are soon becoming obsolete.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
And there's a need for almost a new set of essential skills that marketers need to adapt to and have.
Yes.
What do you think you would hire for? What do those skills look like for now and the future?
I'll give you a classic example.
Okay.
I would want to know that you can tell me the difference in output between Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. I'd want to know that. I'd want to know that you understand that when you prompt Claude, the response it's likely to give you, how different is that to the response that Gemini is likely to give you? And how different is that to the response that Perplexity is going to give? I'd want to know that. Because what that tells me is that number one, you've played with these platforms.
Yes.
And number two, you've got a level of awareness that to solve problem X, I need to use platform Y.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to one of our client managers this morning, and I was showing them how to put together a brief very quickly. And I helped them understand that Forge allows you to be able to put together a quality scored brief super fast.
Yeah.
And then I said to them, now you've got a data source. You've captured all the information. Now with that data source, interoperability says you can take that and put it into any other AI and get another solution. And I said to him, which AI would you prompt to generate you a press release?
Hectic. What was the response?
He didn't know. And that gives me a signal that he hasn't played with them enough, right? Because I would say ChatGPT versus Claude, I'd say put it into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Because ChatGPT's got a better phrasing. The reasoning model allows it to be able to connect the model, the LLM model, and what you're doing, and it'll probably give you a good, well-constructed verbal. If I was to construct a document that has got to do with numbers, I would say don't use ChatGPT, use Claude, because Claude's logic around numbers, numeracy, is far higher than ChatGPT's.
I see.
So that's what I'd be expecting from a marketer. And if they haven't played with those things, they would be completely out of their depth. Now, in the past, they would want to go and rewrite the press release themselves. Which is West. That's the West place you want to be. Now we've got a technology, you can do 600 press releases in 30 seconds if you want to, right? And that's where the scalability of this thing comes in. But the skill is, have you played with these technologies enough to know what they give you to be able to be a better marketer?
Okay. And I think during this segment, you mentioned LLMs. And obviously, because I'm close to you now, I'm learning all these things and I'm Googling and I'm researching and I'm playing around. But for other people, they don't know what that means. There's LLMs, then there's, I think the other day I saw NLPs. You know what I mean? I'm seeing all these things and I'm fascinated about it, but I think other people should know and we'll get to it. But for now, I want to then go into the AI mindset of a marketing leader. And what that toolbox actually looks like in the context of what we're discussing today.
So, unfortunately, it goes back and it's probably overtraded, but back to the fundamental principle of human curiosity. So the mind of a marketing leader, as well as I think any leader, is such a high degree of curiosity that you want to understand why. I think that is going to be such a premium. If I think about building a new executive team or building a business with people, I want people that want to understand why and have curiosity to be able to explore it. Now, the gift of AI is that you can with multiple platforms understand why. Grok will give you a point of view on why it thinks that African literature is at a disadvantage to Western literature, just by being able to prompt. And then you can compare that to 6 responses and form a point of view. That'll help you go, oh, okay, that's why something happens. So that curiosity, which as I said is overtraded, is the first and most important thing. The second thing is the wherewithal to be clear on where your time delivers exponential value. Now, you could prioritize writing up multiple briefs as where you think your time delivers you more exponential value. And someone could put a case to you that says, this can be done in a far quicker time. And in your mind, because you attach the value to having written the press release, you won't be able to see that that's not a good use of your time. So people who are able to self-assess and know that I should not be spending time here, I should be spending time here, becomes really important. Because as the technology improves, it allows you to be able to find ways to be able to create the same value without the same time commitment.
Got you.
And then you gift yourself time to be doing the things you should be doing. Now, it's a difficult thing to understand, especially to creators, right? When I spend time with, copywriters, designers, they traditionally associate the value of the output with the pain they've journeyed through, right? That's what they were taught. They were taught, even the term is labor of love, right? So the labor part is part of what they associate a value to. And even if you compose music, if you're anything, anybody who creates, the labor of the love is such a big part of the output. So when you remove the labor, there's almost you don't respect the output because you didn't labor through it. But that changes now. It fundamentally changes. By understanding some very basic principles around coding, I can go to a platform like Lovable and create an app now. I don't have to labor through coding and da-da-da-da. And so to understand that that's not where your value is anymore is difficult. Now, don't get me wrong. Human beings will still pay for those that are willing to labor. That's why we pay to go watch soccer matches, right? You still want to see the guy's knees get broken. Like that labor we still want to pay for as human beings. But certainly from a commercial value point of view, it's shifted fundamentally. That's
crazy. So now in your agency, how have you incorporated AI?
So it's been really difficult, I must say. So we initially, and I think partly it's difficult because of me, because I'm 50 steps ahead. And I try.
You are the problem.
Yeah, I'm the 100%. 100%.
You're the solution and the problem, actually.
I fully embrace that I'm the problem. So I'm 50 steps ahead. And so I make a lot of assumptions about where everybody else is.
Yes.
And my assumption is maybe you are 49 or 48 steps, but you actually step zero. So because I was 50 steps ahead and you're designing new things like that, you don't take into account that you have to close quite a big gap from a knowledge, from a learning, from an understanding point of view. So that was challenge number one. But certainly what we did is that we showed people the technology and we said, let's come on the journey. Let's show you how you get 1% better, 1% better, 1% better. And only now can I see that people warm up to that. When you sit with people and you one-on-one, how this thing will help your work get better, and the penny drops, then your push, then your effort is far less. If you don't do that up front, that's where you have bigger problems later on. So number one, you show them this really scary vision and you don't bridge the gap. So we're now trying to bridge the gap step by step. The second thing is make AI widely available and easy to use. So we take it for granted. I mean, because of my disposition, I'm happy to go and sign up to as many AI platforms as possible. Everyone else maybe hasn't got the cash to do it. They don't have the wherewithal to do it. And I'm going, why aren't you doing it? And then maybe it's just a financial thing. So make AI widely available. Whatever tools that you've greenlisted in your organization, make sure everyone's got access to it, because otherwise they won't get the full value. They're using, the free version of ChatGPT.
I know that's your biggest pain point.
Yeah, it's slow, it's glitchy. So when you tell them about this wonderful value, you're actually getting access to the premium version, and they're using the free version. And that's why there's sometimes a disconnect between I'm not getting the same value you're getting behind this pay gate. The third thing is when people take to it, you should be able to use those individuals to show that it's possible. We've got one particular lady, our director of AI, who just took to AI. She, at the point where I started tinkering with this thing, she went and learned everything, taught herself stuff on LinkedIn. Now we're starting to form and build the Forge team around a service offering which she's building. And she did that all on her own. So, being able to say, look, what individual A has been able to do just by, being proactive, being curious, and taking the first step helps people to know, oh, okay, that's what it means. Oh, okay, that's the value it creates. And then you start to connect the dots. So it's not any one thing, but I think the most important is, the mistake I made, don't take for granted how much the big vision can leave a lot of people behind. And be mindful about the steps you have to take to close the big vision and what people need to do to get on board.
So if you were then to recommend a couple of platforms currently for marketers today that they can access, use, what they are good for versus the other one, which ones would they be? Because I think that's critical. How do we start? Now we need to start. We've had the chat, you and I, people are watching. We need to get people started. Where do they start?
So there's a couple of layers. So I always call it the high irritation list, the hit list. So make a list of all the tasks that you believe that are high irritation for you. Making notes after meetings. Putting together briefs. Whatever. Make that list. Based on that list, you can do research on which AI solves for that problem. So as an example, if one of your major irritations is, you come back from the office and you have to create a meeting report to send to your clients, you could record that meeting and do a text to voice, a voice to text, translator, and it transcribes your meeting notes really quickly. So based on your hit list, your high irritation list, try and align an AI to solve that problem. Once you align the AI to solve their problem, use the free version. After you use the free version, then try and get into the paid version. For me, on my hit list, because I had a challenge with my eyes, I needed to get a platform that could read me content, and I could read content back to, and it could turn it into text. So 11 Labs is one really great platform that does that. So when I struggle seeing, I could upload a PDF and it could read it to me, and I could understand what to do. I could dictate what it needed to say, it would transcribe, and I could send it over. So 11 Labs is a really cool one, but that's only because of my eye condition. Secondly, I think the OG ChatGPT still got a lot of use cases, and they're being really intentional about getting deeper on understanding how people are going to continue to use AI. So I think ChatGPT is a good one. Any one of their models, depending on what you want to solve for. Gemini is really good for referenceable research online. One of our strategists here just uses Gemini like a ninja. He's just made that Gemini's thing. So Gemini for deep research and for referenceable stuff.
They're advancing quickly as well.
Correct. They also they've turned a corner. The Perplexity, which I mentioned, Perplexity is similar to Chat, but it's more academic. So it's a rigorous research based AI. So if you're trying to find references for stuff that has been documented in journals, you know, and in referenceable places from an academic point of view. Perplexity is a really good AI to use. Grok, I find Grok very interesting because Grok has got a personality.
Okay.
More so,
Never use Grok, but yeah,
more so than I've seen in many
Now
other
try
AI.
it, yeah.
So Grok, and I think it's also informed by the founder or the new owner, Elon. So Grok is kind of like the kid who's got edge.
Anything with Elon.
It's got like an edge in Yan. So when you speak to Grok, you can hear this. It's almost like speaking to a peasant, you know, more so than the others. And Grok, if you're looking for public opinion, if you're looking for points of view on world issues, Grok is really good for that because it's obviously integrated into X.
Nice.
And then Claude. Claude is a sleeping giant by Anthropic. I really find Claude to have the best combination of numerical logic and text-based logic. So it can read to understand, it can calculate to understand, and can kind of bring those two worlds together better than ChatGPT for sure. ChatGPT and numbers doesn't vibe. I find that it doesn't get like numerical logic. So those are the ones that you can use as a start.
Love it. And on that note, that's the Future CMO episode 1. I think we've set the context very well.
Yeah.
I think we've doubled down on what it means for marketers in this world.
Yeah.
And we've, I guess, set up the platform for people to actually try and play. Like this section now, where you're sharing what people can actually start using, I think sets people up to at least start.
Yeah.
And for me, that makes progress on what the Future CMO should actually be looking at.
100%. And obviously, as we set that platform, that young people of our country should look at how these AI platforms help them to become productive.
Definitely.
Help them to position as options from a work environment, right? So if you got old fogies who don't want to adopt AI and you've got young people who do, you know, that's definitely one of the things that can create competitive advantage for young people. So they should always be open to AI as a way to skill themselves up.
Definitely.
100%.
Thank you, bro.
Cool, man.
Appreciate you.
Anytime.